G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. On this video I thought I'd kick it off with a bit of a thank you shout out, and that goes out to Graham of Graham's Restorations, who we all know on YouTube as XA Coop Guy. Graham was kind enough to give me a bit of a shout out on his channel and recommend that a few of his subscribers come and check me out, and been fortunate enough that they have, and they've blown me away with the support that they've given me. In the last week or so, my channel has it's overwhelmed me with the response that I've got. You know, from another 100 or so subscribers to likes and comments and all that good stuff. So not only to Graham, so everybody that's taken the time out to come and check my channel out and subscribed and all that kind of thing. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot. The show of support's overwhelming. So I thought I'd kick this video off with that. So with that said, today's video, we're not going to be working on the VS, but I've got a brand new bumper bar for a Toyota Camry. So nothing too crazy, but I thought I would film it and give you guys a bit of an insight as to how you take a brand new plastic bumper or anything that's brand new in plastic, how to take that and get it into paint. So it's probably going to be a bit of a short video, which is always probably good. You know, I don't really want to put out long videos all the time because you're probably less likely to watch them all. But yeah, we're going to get this bumper bar painted, and really shouldn't take that long, so we might have a bit of time to jump onto the VS and start prepping the roof and stuff for paint. As you can see, it's all primed now. In the last video that I did on this car, we got it all primed up, apart from the boot lid. Second hand is going on, we've got to do the bumpers as well. So yeah, with that said, let's get into it. Alrighty, so now we've got the bar in the booth, ready to rock and roll. I didn't film prepping the bar for paint. I wasn't going to film it, but then decided, well, I may as well, it might interest somebody. So all I've done is I've rubbed the bar with some red Scotch-Brite and this stuff here. So that's a scuff paste. Basically this aids in cleaning the bar. A lot of the times when new bars come out of the mold, they are left with sort of a slimy, a lot of bars are different, but if they've got like a slimy residue, that's the release agent from the molds. So this stuff helps clean that off. Obviously if you're at home and you're going to do, you know, something like this once, you're probably not going to want to go and fork out the dollars for this, because it's about 80 bucks. But if you don't have that and you don't want to buy that, 50-50 mix of methyl and water as well is going to be your cheapest way out of it. The methyl will do basically the same job. The only difference is this, you use wet, and as you're scuffing it, you know, it makes suds, and it's good for cleaning dirt and all that kind of, you know, crap off the panel. So but if you don't have that, just get a like a little $2 squirter or whatever from Bunnings, 50-50 mix methyl and water, and use that instead. Wash the bar off, clean it, and you'll be good to go. So the next step of this is to clean it. So because it's a new plastic bumper, you don't want to use wax and grease remover. you want to use what's called an anti-static cleaner or a plastic cleaner. There's a lot of different names, different companies have different names for it. I've got a couple of different ones. I'm going to be using this one because this is the one that I've got opened. And basically what this does is basically substitutes for the wax and grease, cleans the bar, and as the name suggests, removes static from the bumper. Because it's plastic and you've rubbed it, it can create static, and that can drag a lot of trash into your paint and things like that. So we're going to run over it with this. It's the same principle as wax and grease removing. So I use microfiber towels, apply it with one, wipe it off with another. A lot of paint shops use blue rags, blue cloths to clean. I don't use them. I prefer the microfiber cloths only because you don't get lint and stuff like that left on the bar. And these also act basically like a tack rag as well. They'll pick up any trash that's on there, or little hairs or fibres or whatever, dust, dirt, whatever's on there, from sitting around till you bring it in the booth. So wipe on, wipe off, Daniel-san, Karate Kid sort of stuff. Anyway, let's get it cleaned up. Alrighty, so once you've done that, when you're in the process of cleaning it, you've got to make sure you get absolutely all of it off. When you're wiping it off, don't leave any residue on it, because it will react to the paint if you leave a little bit on there, so you've got to really get in all these little gaps and things like that. Make sure you get it all out, don't leave any in there, because obviously when you start spraying with the air pressure, that's going to blow straight onto your paintwork and ruin it, and you're going to have a bad day. So that's all cleaned up. So now we'll go on to the next step, which is plastic primer. A lot of people sort of get confused with what you put on a plastic bumper before you paint it, and it really couldn't be any simpler. It's plastic primer. You can't put a high fill primer straight on this bare plastic because it's not going to hang onto it. Even though it's scuffed and rubbed, it won't hang onto it. You've got to put a plastic primer on. So I'm going to go get that ready now, and we're going to get the plastic primer on this bar, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so we're going to get the plastic primer ready. I'm using a Hammer Coatings plastic primer, and I'll be using Glazerite Top Coat. So normally you don't want to mix your products, but being the plastic primer is a bit of a generic product, it's not going to cause you any grief. So I wouldn't be using paint and mixing different hardeners and things like that. But anyway, I'm not going to get it too deep into that. But so I've got disposable cup with a bladder in it. Now obviously you're probably not going to have all this at home. You're quite fine to use the pot that comes on your spray gun if you buy one. I use these. It's just quicker clean up, and you can still store the paint in these when you finish. So strainer, again, look, you should always strain your paint, but if you don't have it, it's not a big drama, don't stress. So this stuff's ready for use straight out of the can. And once you're finished with this also, it's not something that's going to be contaminated once you use it. What you don't use, you can put back into the tin. You won't have any dramas there. So that's strained into there, ready to go. So we'll get it on the gun and get in and get it on the bar. Oh boy, he's always looking at that old HD Holden we got. We'll probably end up doing a resto on that thing. It was meant to be garden art, but every time we come here, the old man's all over it like a rash. So wouldn't be surprised if it's going to get dragged into the shop one of these days. Anyway, alrighty, so we're ready to go. Obviously, if you're going to do anything like this, safety first. Wear a mask, please. You don't want any of this stuff going into your lungs. A lot of this stuff causes cancer and all nasty sort of stuff. So if you're going to be doing stuff, spend $100 because your health is worth so much more than $100. So there's too many people doing stuff without masks on to protect themselves. So always mask up. The spray gun I'm using is just the DeVilbiss GDI. Now, as for gun settings, I normally have a gauge on the end of my gun. I don't on this gun, but I can just go by ear. I've been doing it long enough where I can sort of get it roughly where I know it's right. But I still prefer to use a gauge because I don't like to leave anything to chance. I like everything to be, 100% how it's supposed to be. But basically, fluid's right out. So. And fan wide open, just cracked in a touch. So I'll get the gun and I'll just run you through that so it makes sense, because it probably doesn't make sense. So I'll go grab the gun and just give you a quick run through. Alrighty, so that's the gun I'll be using. It's a 1.4mm tip. So if you're unsure with spray guns, your air is adjusted by the bottom here. So I normally don't wind it right out because I don't have a gauge on it, but I'll do that by ear. Your fluid, wind that right in. On a DeVilbiss, I like to wind it nearly, not right out, but crack it out a fair bit. And the fan wide open, and I just crack it in a little touch. So we're going to put 2 coats of plastic primer on this. You can get away with 1, but if you don't put plastic primer over this whole bar, or you miss a little spot, or there's not enough on it, your paint's going to come off. So for the price of the plastic primer, which from Hammer Coatings in Melbourne, they're a great company. Robbie is an excellent bloke to deal with, and the price of the materials are very, very competitive. So generally I order something, I'll have basically the next day, as long as you order before 3 o'clock in the arvo. But the plastic primer is not even $20 for a litre, so it's not dear enough where you've got to be an absolute tight ass with it. Put it on, because this here is what's going to keep your paint on the bar. So 2 coats. So let's get this done. So I've just put 1 on that. Now when you put this on, you want to put it on wet. Don't put it on dry. Put it on wet, not wet where it's going to run all over the place, but a nice closed wet coat. Let it sit for 5 minutes and then put another one on it. This stuff flashes off and dries pretty quick, so we'll give this a couple of minutes and then we'll put another one on it, and then we're going to let that sit for 5 or 10 minutes. We'll go and mix up the paint, and basically by the time the paint's mixed and in the gun and I get back in here, it's going to be ready to shoot. So we'll get the second coat on this and keep moving. Alright, so that's 2 coats. I'm going to let this sit for 5 minutes. We're going to go and mix up the colour now, and by that stage this will be ready to rock and roll. So let's go and mix this colour up and get it done. Alrighty, so now we're ready to get some paint on this thing. Now the gun I'm using for the top coat is a Sartajet 5000. Much like before, I have the fluid turned 2 turns out. So what that means is wind the fluid right in, and you'll see on the back here that little notch. So 1, 2 turns out. Fan is wide open, that's my fan. So anti-clockwise is fully open, and then I just crack that back a touch. It's about 2 bar, 1.9 to 2 bar. Yeah, 1.9 to 2 bar on the air pressure. Being that this is a solid colour, direct loss, so it doesn't require a clear coat. It's basically colour hardener and 10% reducer. We'll only need to put 2 coats on this bar and it's done. So let's get it done. Righty, so that's one coat on there. Now, when you're applying paint, the first coat, you're not trying to gain full coverage of the colour straight off the bat. That's how you're going to run into dramas with runs and things like that. All you're doing is basically a medium wet coat, so it's not full wet. Medium coat, that way your second coat, which needs to be wet, basically has something to grab onto. So medium wet, and then the second coat, nice wet one, and should be good to go. So I'll let this sit for 5 minutes, and then I'll come back in and put a nice wet coat on to finish her off. Alrighty, so that's all done, 2 coats. I'll flip this camera around and give you a bit of a look at it, and we'll get out of here. So yeah, as you can see, nice and wet. Not wet where it's going to run, but booth lights do not like the camera at all. Alrighty guys, so that's it for this video. I know it's probably not the sort of stuff that you want to be watching, you know, it's not an old car or classic car or respray type thing, but it's still painting, and you know, hopefully if you're going to be doing something at home like this, this has answered all your sort of questions that you may have. So if you enjoyed it, give me a like. Any comments that you got or queries or questions, throw them down in the comment section there, and I'll see you in the next one where we will get stuck back into the VS. So until then, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys.